time for Common Man. Common Man, charge your housewives like no one can. What'd you shoot? Where'd we play? Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in, it's time for Common Man.
I'm a fraud.
Yes.
Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello? We're coming. You know, I didn't like the way we were playing this act, so I just told them, hey, you're going to live and die with me. Y'all, don't nobody like it. Sit your ass down right here. Don't come out here, but we coming through me. You know, that's why I like Sam to come in. You know, I let them do their thing for 3 quarters, come for a quarter, bring it to the ticket.
So what? You know, you carry. If not, hey, I look at bad blood sometimes as motivation. So, you know, those are things that are out of my control.
Every game is big in my mind, regardless of when we play it. Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night, Tuesday night. You know, every game is big, and you know, especially where we're at right now. You know, from here on out, it's every game is a big game. So that's the way we approach it. You know, week in and week out is a big game.
What a great knowing Tim Tebow wasn't an NFL caliber quarterback before everyone else knew that Tim Tebow wasn't an NFL caliber quarterback. Mind. Wow. What a great knowing the Vikings were going to get their roll on before everyone else knew the Vikings were going to get their roll on. Mind. Wow. What a great knowing what Craig Leopold was thinking when nobody else was wondering what Craig Leopold was thinking. Mind.
Let's play!
Super Bowl, homeboy.
Speculation. You don't know nothing.
He's the clown from Brown. He's the fourth in the north. This is the common man, Dan Cole.
What an incredible night last night. It might be better to say it, oh, what a night, late February back in... Doesn't work as well as
25.
Yeah, but it doesn't work as well. Because it's, oh, what a night. Late December back in 63. Then late February in 2005. It just doesn't have as, I don't think it has as, I mean, if you were writing an imaginary song, right? A made up song, where you're just, you made the whole thing up. It wasn't an actual event. Then you can make it December back, and you can write it anywhere you want. February in 2025 just doesn't have the poetic ring to it. I think that December.
Do you think in the original song, the actual song was about a night in December late '63, or did they just say that because it sounded good?
They did it because it sounded better that way.
Could have been March of
because you don't say
65.
Late in March back in 1959. Well, 1959 has nice. That could work too. That's all part of the. Now I don't write music. I wrote a book. I don't know if I mentioned that to you.
You what?
I have 3 full boxes minus 1. So that's 26, 26, and 26 is what? 78. Minus 1 is 77. 7 Sunset Strip. And then I have a few loose ones here at the radio station. I'm under 90 books remaining out of 5,232. You better order a table leg leveler now because they're not going to last long. Because I I sell them at Flop, Sweat, and Tears. We're giving away tickets today. Did you find that? Was there anything in the giveaways today?
I haven't looked in there yet.
We're giving away a pair of tickets. Meat Sauce and I, along with the Larry Mondello guy, will be at Forgotten Star on Friday. Doors at, I can't remember now. Is it doors at 6, show at 7 or 6? No, maybe it's 7 and 8. It's Friday night. What's the difference?
If only you had a calendar in front of you to look at it.
Yeah. Well, no, I have a calendar. I just don't remember what time it starts. I don't. They're either a 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock start. They always vary somewhere between there. I don't know the exact time. It depends upon what the club wants to do. I think it's a 7 o'clock, an 8 o'clock start, I think. Doors at 7. Your ticket includes a free beer. We'll give away tickets. You can find them at ForgottenStarBrewing.com, or you can wait to. We gave away a pair this morning on the Power Trip Morning Show. We'll give away another pair later today. But what a night last night. Well, no, I'm not talking about the Wolves' comeback. I'm talking about I finally have all my tax papers together and I dropped them off at Autoproof Guy's office today. This is my wife and I, my lovely wife, Patricia. She, by the way, I should make it clear that she's the one that puts all the paperwork together, right? Because it's more than just a 10W. What was that called? 1040 Easy form? I don't even think they have 1040 Easy anymore. Did we talk about this? I think if you look up, IRS or tax code or whatever it is, filing taxes, there's no such thing as 1040 Easy anymore. I just think they call it something else. There was a time back in the olden days when I worked at Metro 500 pumping gas, or I was at Norcon buffing helmets, motorcycle helmets. I would just fill out 1040 Easy. Made this much, you took this much. Do I get anything back? And they'd send me a small pittance. I'd get a check for a couple $100 or something like that. Now it's a bit more complicated, making a little bit more money than I used to, and have. I do have a handful of. What do they call them? I have a handful of deductions. Like, for instance, I sell books, so I have to pay a tax on that, and I do. And then I have Flop, Sweat, and Tears, because we do those as a, Meat Sauce and I are sole proprietors. So we 1099, 10W30, whatever it's called. And so, but it's done. And the reason I wanted to get it done early is I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to lay off like 6,000 to 7,000 IRS workers. How long do you think it's going to take to get your tax return out, Tennessee? I just figure I better get it in now while the getting's good. So that was the big thing for me last night. And I've got to admit I'm disappointed I missed it last night. It's the talk of the town, I believe. Other than, actually, I still think the start of the combine is actually a larger story than the Minnesota Timberwolves making one of the greatest comebacks in the history of the NBA. Somebody sent me the note. Maybe you've already seen it, Tennessee, and I don't know if you were planning to include it in 534 or not, but here's what I had. This is what somebody sent me a little bit earlier today. It said, the previous 1,552 times an NBA team has trailed by at least 24 points in the fourth quarter, they lost until last night. That's the first time, because there have been 1,552 times an NBA team has trailed by at least 24 points in the fourth quarter. And in each and every game they lost, not last night, the Wolves rise to the occasion and come back and win. And I'm sorry I missed it. I heard about
Epic.
it. Yeah, it's epic.
Epic rally.
My guess is you missed it as well.
I definitely missed it, yes.
I just didn't get a chance to see it. Bad break for both of us. It's not Wednesday, but a wet blanket in anyways. Why did you put yourself in that situation to begin with? That's what I don't understand. How do you get behind by that much? And then you know what it took? Naive kids to get them back into the game.
Yeah, Ant wasn't even a part of it.
Yeah, well, not just that, but I mean, it was the youngsters. It was Dilly. I call him Dilly, by the way. Dilly and
Terrence Shannon Jr.
Yeah, we just call him TSJ. TSJ and Dilly were the ones that got, and that's another thing that have we talked about this before, Tennessee, where I know we have, not just Finchy, but a lot of these coaches have the shortest bench in the world and they don't trust their young guys. It's like, well, play them. You drafted them. You must think they're okay, but are they? Do they think they're that bad, or the rest of the guys that have been the veterans that have been in the league are that much better that you don't dare put them in there? It's almost like they're saying it's like putting Common into an NBA game. No, these guys, you drafted them, let them play a little bit, let them learn, and look what they did last night. I guarantee you, if it's DiVincenzo and Randall in there and Gobert, they don't come back and win that game. They don't, because those guys just go, we got blown out in this one. We'll see him again, maybe in the playoffs. But the young kids played well. It's a rally like none other. And you know what the thing is the Shea character?
Yeah.
I think he learned a lesson. He decided he was just he's underneath the basket late in the game, chance to win it right away. I think that would have given him the lead.
Yeah, they're down a point at the time.
Yeah. And Ant comes and blocks a shot. Aren't you supposed to kind of slam dunk
Take
that?
it hard.
Yeah, and don't just slam that into the bucket. Instead of just trying to throw up this little floater. And Ant was Johnny on the spot there. Like you say, he wasn't in the game for a while because his hammy went out or something.
His calf.
Calf went out. And then he put the massage gun on and said, I'm ready to go. He comes back in and he makes the play of the game with the block. So, pretty big game for Ant and the Minnesota Timberwolves. We got a lot coming up today. KOC at the Combine. He was on with PA for a kind of a laid-back Q&A. But then he met with the media, too. We're going to air that for it. I think we're going to do Quasi as well. They both meet with the media at the Combine. They're in Indianapolis like everybody else is. So we'll do that. We're going to do 534. We'll have that giveaway of the Flop, Sweat, and Tears tour tickets. Also, Rosen will join us at 2. So plenty to get to here on the Common Man program here on The Fan.
You app.
Laugh out loud. Comedian Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias is coming to the Island Event Center September 6th and 7th. Don't miss out on a night of iconic jokes and nonstop laughter.
It never stops.
Get your tickets today at TICasino.com.
14 past Common Man program. Common and 10 to be. Time now for Peek at the Purple, brought to you by Affordable Electric. When you're a family-owned business, you take extra care to do things right. After all, your name is above the door. Nick and Teresa at Affordable Electric are second-generation owners, and they take that responsibility seriously. No job is too small, and they take pride in knowing that they are your old home specialists. Affordable Electric, affordable-electric.com. Remember, Affordable Electric is shockingly affordable. As far as Peek at the Purple, we're actually going to take a deeper peek. I might actually probably should have just made Peek at the Purple for 12:30 because we're going to run the KOC interview. Runs about 13, 14 minutes or so. We're going to do that coming out of that bottom of the hour break. But, as far as the Purple, we've covered all this before, Tennessee, but just kind of a synopsis. I mean, you're coming off a really good season at 14-3. The biggest decision is what they're going to do at quarterback. My guess is KOC is not going to tip his hand in any way, shape, or form during this news conference. As it does, it'll be breaking news. And my guess, because we're airing it, 40 minutes after the fact, had he said, Sam Darnold's our guy, or we're going with J.J. McCarthy, Twitter would be blowing up right now. It would be trending. So my guess is nothing was said there. But I do think that's still the most important, obviously, to this. What are they going to do with the quarterback situation? Then after that, it's like, you got cap money, you got no draft picks. What are you going to do? You going to sign all free agents? Are you going to trade? And, of course, they're not going to tip their hand on that. But those are the things I think are most important to people is what do you do at quarterback? How do you acquire some more draft picks if you do it all? And then what positions are you going to address after the quarterback situation? I think most of us feel, that, again, I played both sides of the ball, so I understand the game at a level that a lot of people don't. I do think we need help in the offensive line. You look at all the teams that are successful. That cliche about the games are won in the trenches is just so true. Philadelphia and Detroit, two of the best teams in the league this year, they have terrific offensive lines. Philly might be the best in the business, and Detroit's not far behind them. And every year, the teams that seem to to do the best. And, other side of the trend, the defensive line too, we need help there as well. So if you believe that we need 2 guards and a center and maybe at least one guy up the middle on the defensive line, that's 4. Then you probably, depending on what Harrison Smith does and if we're able to sign any of our, because we've got, who's the kid that played well for us? Isn't he a free agent? Not Cam
What
Beasley,
position?
but defensive back. Not Cam Beasley, but
Corners or safeties?
well, corners.
Byron Murphy Jr.
Yeah, Byron Murphy Jr. Isn't he a free agent?
Yes.
So we need
All 3 of ours are.
So we need to make decisions on those people, and are we able to keep them, or are we not going to be able to keep them? And so, and again, if you wanted to keep all, that's a lot. Well, that's all of a sudden you got 6, 7, 8 players you're going to try to keep, and whether you can or not with it, I guess we got the salary cap money, but if you sign all those people and don't really do much you pick up another player in free agency with the cap money you have remaining, and then you have draft picks and you don't have many. I don't know how much the roster of the team changes. It'll change more than the Twins. I think the Twins have just added like maybe 2 or 3 different players since last year, but those are the decisions we'll find out about. I'm sure he'll be asked, but I don't think Quarterback Whisperer is going to give us any real tells on what's going to happen there. Would you, we've already talked about the quarterback, but like offensive line, do you think all 3 do you think you need a center or 2 guards?
It's hard to replace all 3.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can replace 1 or 2 just to do wholesale changes on all 3 and then potentially wholesale changes on all your corners, and then you need interior defensive line. Like obviously they have some free agency money, especially if they don't bring back Sam Darnold. But they don't have a lot of draft picks. They don't have a lot of high draft picks to be able to address all those needs. So it'd have to all be done basically in free agency. You can hide a guy on the offensive line. When you have multiple guys that you need to hide, that's when you're in trouble. But if you've got one guy who isn't at the level you need him to be, you can still hide him a little bit as long as you get everything working around him.
Do you think again, I know this question is probably too soon because we don't know what they're going to do in free agency and who they're really going to sign, who the quarterback's going to be, but do you think that they can match that 14-3? It'll just be hard to, right? For any team to that's only 3 losses to be last I checked in during a regular season. So that's going to be hard to match no matter what they do. And the division's going to be tough. It's, this is where both Kwesi and O'Connell will earn their pay, right? This is where to build on that, or at least you got to stay somewhere near that. And you have 3 other teams in the division. Detroit should be as good or close to it, and Green Bay.
Unless the coordinators are that valuable.
Right, yes, yeah. Exactly. And then Green Bay, I don't think is going to, we've seen it before. Teams that play really well, all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under them, and they're not nearly as good as they were before. Maybe the Vikings are in that. You might end up being one of those teams, but I think the division's going to be competitive, and I just think it's this is where we're going to find out. This is where the rubber meets the road, tend to be with our front office and our head coach. So it'd be interesting to see. I guess the one everybody seems to feel it's unfortunate for B-Flow because I think he wanted to be a head coach. But I think most Viking fans, and I would assume O'Connell and everybody in the Viking organization, probably were like, hey, sorry about that, B-Flow. But deep down, they're also going, well, at least we get to keep the defensive coordinator that a lot of people think is one of the best in the business. So
it'll be year 3 of them as well.
Yes,
and
correct.
Another year of guys having them under the system. I know they're going to be missing potentially some corner. There might be some changes made in that defensive backfield, but your front 7, most of those guys should all be coming back and returning and are familiar with the system. So, and if you want to give Kwesi credit somewhere, and maybe that's B-Flow that deserves the credit, they found guys to fit his defense last year, and they're going to have money to spend here in free agency. So there's reason to believe that defense should be pretty good again next year.
And we can build this thing together. When I went to the movie, the Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan story, they did they play a lot of previews.
Yes.
I mean, there's 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. And one of them, the music in the background for it was, and we can build this thing together. My favorite is, my wife doesn't like when I do it, and I was there wasn't many people as a matinee. And I'm always, I didn't want to go over the top because my wife gets mad. I get the elbow in the ribs, but they show a preview. I think I've told you to say they like to go, wow, or that looks awful, right? But they did one of these scary ones where it's another guy in a mask. I don't know if it's like Halloween 46 or whatever. There's a guy in a mask, and these kids go into a house, and why they're in the haunted house, who knows? And they're getting all chopped up with an axe, and blood's flying everywhere, and people are coming out of mirrors. And the very end of it is, the very end of the preview is somebody's got some kind of a caterpillar or worm coming out of her cheek, and she's going, and one of her pals, they're all young teenage type kids, they're a little right, and he goes to reach to grab it to pull it out of her cheek, and it disappears in her cheek, and she goes, "Is it gone? Is it gone?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then all of a sudden her face starts on that side, starts cracking like glass and stuff, and I just started laughing. Is that really scary?
Same old, same old.
Yeah. Do people think that? Do they get frightened by that? Oh my God. It's a movie. It's fake. It's not real. And they're just the same plot over and over and over again. That's why I like, which commercial is it where they do the chainsaw thing, and it ran for a couple of years, and they're out in a farmland somewhere, and the guy goes, she goes, "Why don't we just get into the running car and drive away?" He goes, "No, let's hide in the barn," or whatever it is, right? Brilliant. It's the same thing. These people put themselves in situations. Yeah. That is...
By the way, on the previews topic, the amount of previews, when you have a 4-year-old sitting in the movie theater, I don't need to see 9 previews. No, can we get to the movie, please?
Yeah, well, by the time they get through the previews, they've already eaten all the popcorn and all the candy. I'll tell you, how about this? Oh, what a night. It was February down in OKC.
Oh, that's good.
See? We'll work this thing out and then maybe get AI to help us out a little later. When we come back, that's Peek at the Purple, brought to you by Affordable Electric. AffordableElectric.com. Affordable Electric is shockingly affordable. Other side of the break, about 45 minutes ago or so, Kevin O'Connell addressed the media in Indianapolis at the Combine. We'll play that presser in its entirety. We'll do that next year on The Fan.
Join the Power Trips Meat Sauce and Miller Lite at Dave's Town Club in Delano this Thursday from 5 to 7. Stop by to register for a chance to win a spot in the Vikings Foundation Golf Tournament. Get the full details now at KFAN.com. Keyword golf.
In addition to the Common Man Meat Sauce, Flop, Sweat, and Tears tour tickets, Friday night Forgotten Star, we'll give away those. Also, we have another pair of tickets to give away to the Lakefront Music Fest. It's back. It's bigger and better than ever. Rock Night, July 11th. More on that later. But we have actually 2 pairs of tickets to give away today. How about this, Tennessee? Oh, what a night. February down in OKC. T.S. Jr. and a guy named Dilly. Oh, what a night.
I remember what a night.
It was a night. Here's what I do hope, though. You know, it's funny how your opinion on a team can change. Mine hasn't changed too much. I mean, you got to like what happened last night. Even on a wet blanket Wednesday, on a Tuesday, you still have to be impressed that they were able to come back like that. Of course, this being the tough love covenant, I'm not going to, Johnny Krasinski called it magical. The team has magic. It's just like, let's not get carried away. Because, I mean, how do you put yourself in that position to begin with, to have to make that? Now, the comeback's brilliant. It's wonderful. Better to come back. What would have been sad is if they would have lost in overtime after making that comeback. You put all that work into it. I know what the headline would have said. You know what, Tennessee? They just had to spend too much energy to climb back into the game. They just didn't have nothing. So now I hope we can dispense with that, because that'll happen every time. How many times have you seen that, Tennessee, in the NBA, where maybe it even happens in the NHL? A team gets behind big early and they make a furious second half rally or fourth quarter rally or third period rally, and then they end up losing the game anyways, even though they take, like with the Wolves, a 24-point deficit, fourth quarter, come back. If they would have lost that game, you know what the headline would have been? Furious fourth quarter rally, falls up short, and the teams, and the media would have said, well, they just ran out of gas. Mm-hmm. Well, no, they didn't, because they didn't run out of gas last night. It's just so it's not that that extra couple of minutes and all that extra work you had to put in was the reason you lost the game. Was just the other team was able to hold on and maybe make a defensive stop somewhere, or you missed a shot. And is it because you had dead legs? Well, be in better shape, or don't get behind that early in the game. But it's nice to come back. But now, you go from, now this team, we're hoping they're going to get you're just hoping they're going to get a somewhere 6 seed or above, right? You don't want them to get into that play-in status. And now I'm reading things all over that this team doesn't have to fear any team in the NBA. And watch out now, the Wolves are back. And they very well could be. I mean, that does, but to come back against OKC, which I think they have the best record in basketball. With 40 something, and I think that was their 11th or 12th loss. We've handed them 2 of their losses, by the way. So yeah, it's an accomplishment, but again, once
they're 1 game behind Cleveland now after last night.
Once postseason play begins, I don't think I can put. It's the records, you throw them out the window, and what's happened prior might give you hope, but I don't necessarily think that makes this team overnight has now turned from a team we were hoping. Because even I think the most ardent Wolves fans couldn't have been real thrilled with how the season had gone to this point. I mean, even last night, how many people do you think gave up on the club tend to be last night when they were down? I mean, did I have that right? 24 points with like 7 or 8 minutes to go in the game? I mean, that's why that 1,552 times, no one's ever come back from. That's how amazing it was. And I wouldn't have blamed anybody if they just said, you know what? I don't need to watch the rest of this. It's getting late. I'm going to bed. So, but yeah, put it this way. I feel better about the team today than I did yesterday. Let's go ahead and listen to KOC. This was from earlier today about an hour ago at the Combine in Indianapolis.
Really well in December, which was a goal of ours. We've got to find a way to get back in the dance and put our best foot forward in January. Christian Darrisaw's doing really well in his rehab, but I think for Cam Robinson to step in and really, I don't know how many times in the history of football it's happened where you can lose a franchise left tackle and win 9 games in a row after that. So I think it speaks a lot to Cam Robinson, but also just when you go through the tape and you really watch CD's impact, I think he was playing as well as anybody in football through those first 6 weeks, and it was a huge loss for a lot of aspects of our play style, what we really wanted to play like through the totality of 2024. We were able to overcome it, but I'll be very much looking forward to getting CD back. He's having a great off-season, the rehab process. He's absolutely killing it every step of the way, so I look forward to seeing how his spring and summer go and get him ready to roll for 2025.
Along those lines, how do you judge the offensive linemen coming out in this draft, and have they progressed as a unit to where they're more NFL ready today than maybe they were when you came out 10 years ago, or is it about the same level of?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I think the game has changed. The spread offense when I was coming out, it was there. And there was examples of it throughout college football, but I just think as a whole, the majority of college football is now such a space game, and everybody always wants to talk about the players who play in space with the ball in hand, run after catch, the defensive structures that have to play against that, the athleticism of the quarterback continuing to be something that shows up more and more and more, especially at the college level. But I think linemen as well in that line of scrimmage game has also translated to it being a space game and athleticism and different movements, and it's more than just power and physicality. There's different layers to it. I'm in the very initial stages of getting to know this year's group, but I can tell you that there's a lot of versatility in the group. Guys that have played multiple spots, tackles that have the ability to play maybe all 5 spots across the offensive line, guards that can bump out and play tackle, guards that can play center, and where they project over their career might be different early. They might be a great pencil-in kind of player at this position, but we really see a top-tier caliber player growing at another position. So I think the fact that it is, I believe, a deep draft at the position is an exciting thing, and knowing that as we get into the evaluations, it's about finding the players that meet that criteria of smart, tough guys that love football, and then you look at your scheme and where you want to evolve to and how they fit into that. But I'm excited to get to know these guys.
The NFL world is giving up on a quarterback.
Where are you in your quarterback position for 2025 with Sam being a free agency and JJ coming back from injury?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just said it. As a quarterback fan, as a quarterback guy that has coached the position at the position, I played the position, coached it at a position coach level, coordinator, I was always in the room, and now as the head coach, I'm probably in the room a little bit more than some of those guys would probably like. But you always sit back and say, you're very thankful to have the depth that we've had at the position, to end the room with essentially the 5 guys sitting in the room that we had, including JJ, who was a part of every meeting and heavily involved, at that point in his rehab process. You're incredibly thankful for that. Sam's year was so fun to be a part of. Just thinking back to this time last year and then onward through the offseason, acquiring Sam and getting him to trust in us to help him on that next step in his quarterback journey, and what a step it was. So proud of the year he had. JJ's doing really well from a standpoint of where he's progressed to in his rehab, and in a phase now where he's got his sights set on that offseason program start date and getting off to a great start there. And then I can't speak enough about Daniel Jones. In the short time we did have him, I thought it was incredibly impactful for Daniel, but also for us to get to know him and allow him to kind of learn a little bit about our offense, how we train and coach the quarterback position, and he showed some real positive early results from that. So feel incredibly fortunate to be discussing those kind of names, with Brett Rippon and Nick Mullins also in our quarterback room. And, we're evaluating the short-term and long-term aspect of it. It's still early in the off-season process, but ultimately excited about, what lies ahead in 2025.
The NFL world is giving up on a quarterback. How do you know you need to give him more time?
Yeah, I would be slow to say that the NFL world giving up on quarterbacks. I think it's become very popular for people to decide in the moment. People can or can't play. They were right when they decided that about me as a player, but I think it's always very important to evaluate each situation as its own. But I view it more about us in regards to what process do you have for the position, what do you ask the position to do in your offense, and then how are you going to train it, both mentally, physically, technique, and fundamentals, to play the style that you believe will best suit them and allow them to sustain. And I think it's hard to sustain. The greatest quarterbacks in our league, what separates them is their ability to do it week in and week out, regardless of circumstance. And it's easier said than done, but we feel very strongly about our quarterback process that we go through, how we train the position in Minnesota. We've got unbelievable coaches, Josh McCown being a former player that obviously experienced so much in his NFL journey. I mean, Wes Phillips played quarterback at the collegiate level and has been around, coaching at a high level his whole life with his family background. And then I believe in building a quarterback room that ultimately is the final stamp on those guys, building the relationships to grow and improve together, because it's not just about the guy who's on the field. Our jobs is to make sure that we're growing that entire room, whether it's a young player, a guy at a midpoint in his quarterback journey, or a veteran player like we coached my first 2 years here in Kirk. So each player deserves, with the difficulty of the position, each player deserves the utmost respect and emphasis from us as coaches to help them reach that, whatever that's going to be in the time we have, and we want to help them and reach that potential.
You were talking about Kirk a year ago here, about how you had a great relationship with Kirk and you loved him as a person, but then some things are out of people's control. You're here right now. Obviously, it's not exactly the same situation with Sam, but where are you at with Sam?
Yeah, I think the similarities are, in regards to the quarterbacks we're talking about, is they played really good football for the Minnesota Vikings. And that is number one, always my number one priority, is regardless of the circumstances that either I'm stepping into or in some cases the player we acquire or bring in are stepping into, the goal is that we leave them in a place where they can start their journey with the Minnesota Vikings and play good football. And that's happened. So that's the starting point. I've had great dialogue with Sam, from the time the season ended up until very, very recently. And I think my relationship with Sam has grown to a point where, the respect level is sky high. And this process is going to play out both short term and long term for the Minnesota Vikings. And Sam is in a position where the NFL thinks he can play quarterback at a high level. So that's a really good thing. And I feel very proud to be a part of helping him get to this point. And we'll see kind of where it goes from here.
Being a coach at such a young age, what were the benefits and challenges of that, specifically that first year?
Yeah, I think Kellen Moore's kind of going through it a little bit right now. Yeah, and that's probably where you're coming from. It's there's something to be said from leaving a Super Bowl parade and immediately within 24 hours be sitting at the head coaching desk at a totally different franchise that really doesn't care all that much about that Super Bowl journey and what you've went through. You now need to give everything you have to that new organization, and it's you know what you're signing up for in the moment. There's nothing greater for a coach than being the head coach in the National Football League, and I feel very fortunate to be the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and that hasn't changed from the moment I arrived in Minnesota, and I'm sure Kellen probably feels the same way about his opportunity in New Orleans, but it's going to be a challenge. But as I told Kellen a few days ago, got a chance to talk to him, there's always time. There might be less time for sleep and eating and other basic human things, but there's time to do football, and there's time to do it the way you want to do it, and I look forward to seeing how Kellen does. I'm a big fan of his.
Did you find your age in that first year either help or hurt?
I think, all of us have journeys that lead us to that moment. And, my first job as a quarterback coach in the NFL, Josh McCown was in the quarterback room, and I can't remember whether he was 2-3 years older than me at the time. So the first step in that process was, proving to a player that had accomplished a lot in his NFL career that I can help him. That's your number one job as a coach. Regardless of whatever anybody thinks out there, your number one job is to help your players improve and give them a path to doing so, whether that's technique, fundamentals, schematics, the atmosphere and what you surround them with. That's your job as a coach. So accomplishing that on different steps of your journey up until getting the opportunity to be a head coach, those are the experiences you rely on. And then you rely on a lot of the people you got a chance to be around. I got a chance to be around, one of my best friends in the whole world is Sean McVay, and a guy that I'm 6 months older than him, but he's a mentor of mine. How does that make any sense? You had to have been there to experience it, and that put me in a great position to be in the role that I'm in now.
What is Jacksonville getting out of Grant Udinsky and Liam Cohen?
Yeah, I think having great relationships with both those guys. Know Shane Waldron as well, their pass game coordinator. Most recently getting to work with Grant over these last 3 years has been just absolutely one of the highlights of really our time in Minnesota, getting to do it together. I kind of brought Grant in, really, believe it or not, as the chief of staff 3 years ago. Under the, he obviously did some of those jobs, but we did a lot of football together. I've joked that if you added up all the hours that I spent with Grant one-on-one, and then you add all the hours that I spent with my wife over the past 3 years, I'd like to think Leo O'Connell won out, but it's going to be probably a pretty close finish there. So I'm incredibly close with Grant. I will say this, he's prepared for this opportunity. He is going to do great things for Liam, who I, obviously have worked with in the past as well. Big fan of Liam, what he was able to do in Tampa. But seeing those guys kind of link up, it's bittersweet for me, just knowing that how close I was with Grant and how impactful he was on me and our team. But I'm really excited for him and the opportunity that he has, working with some great people. Big fan of Tony Baselli, known him for a long time, and obviously they've got a lot of great folks now in that organization, and it'll be interesting to see what they're able to accomplish.
How much did the VR training route help JJ develop, and how'd that come about for you guys?
Yeah, I think it was certainly a part of what we tried to do, is just make sure, work backwards from number one, the physical reps and being out there playing are always, the number one way to advance forward. But how do we, knowing that part of it was removed as he, the number one priority was getting him healthy, which we feel great about now. But how do we, kind of offset some of that through the use of the VR stuff, through the use of going through weekly process that would mirror what Sam went through, whether that's, film study on a Tuesday, going through the early down plan on a Wednesday, third down, red zone as the week progresses, and then being in that meeting late in the week, that Saturday meeting where we go through the call sheet and try to, my favorite meeting of the week is the red pen meeting, to try to get as many plays off that call sheet as I can, but simulating that, hey, what are your favorite plays in the plan? What do you feel most comfortable with as if you were playing in the game? We did that time and time again this year to try to see what we could get out of this year for JJ to make it so that when he hits the ground running in the spring, he's in the best possible situation to do that. And I think the VR component was certainly part of that.
What are your memories of playing in college with Darren Muji?
Yeah, what I'll always remember is being on campus and as a, I don't know if it's changed with NIL and all the craziness now that exists, but you were always, waiting for that next year's signing class to come in. And I remember the highlight of the class the year after I got to San Diego State was Darren Muji, this hotshot, Hercules-looking fella that, came from Arizona. And I remember thinking, holy cow, I got my work cut out for me to stay on the field. And what transpired from there was formed a great friendship with Darren. He was a really great player. He was a great teammate, unbelievable leadership qualities, smart. Guys always gravitated towards him. I knew whatever path he took, he would have success with that. And he's been around some great people in the NFL. He's very, very well thought of throughout the entire league, and I'm really excited to see what he's able to do there, and obviously think the world of AG as well, and being a former Jet, cool to see some guys that I know really well in some leadership roles there.
Two more questions.
In the league, how do you kind of balance having a specialized division of labor versus having too many cooks in the kitchen?
Yeah, I think first of all, the cooks in the kitchen thing is something that it takes leadership in your coordinator positions. Brian Flores has done an unbelievable job, and Flo, rightly so, gets a ton of credit for what they've been able to accomplish on the defensive side. But I think about Durante Jones and Mike Saravo and Marcus Dixon and Mike Pettin and some of these guys that have made up kind of the think tank that Flo leans so heavily on. Those guys are always meeting, they're always talking, exchanging ideas, and what comes out of that is some pretty cool stuff. And then the best part is their ability to coach it and teach it. And offensively, it's the same way. Special teams, it's the same way with Matt Daniels. So that's the starting point. And then I do believe throughout the different times of the year, we split the fields. We have everybody getting the maximum amount of walkthrough reps on the grass. And with that, I believe in having a set of eyes coaching you every single rep you take. So we have the ability to have, two fields going at the same time with every single position in some capacity getting real-time feedback from a coach. And what does that do? That helps players, but what it also does is develop coaches. And I think a great example of that is a guy that was our assistant quarterback coach, assistant coordinator, on the journey of titles that Grant had in Minnesota. He's now an offensive coordinator and prepared for that moment in the NFL. So I think if you handle it the right way, it all starts with me making sure from a leadership standpoint, people clearly understand roles, responsibilities, but then give runway for growth and an impact throughout your staff, and that's how you maximize it.
Last one, Kevin.
Seeing guys in kind of growing your own coaching tree and having guys that have come up through the ranks go on to other jobs with other organizations.
Yeah, it's really cool to see guys get opportunities and other teams believing in acquiring somebody from your organization, because that means you're doing some things right. There's a lot of smart people in the NFL, so you always have to take it for what it is, as there's been some success and guys are now prepared because of how we do things for that opportunity. But it also makes you think back to your journey, getting to be around Sean McVay and Raheem Morris and Brandon Staley in those 2 years in LA, and then my time in Washington with Jay Gruden, going back further with Chip Kelly and Mike Pettin, and even in Cleveland. It's all part of that journey, and I take a lot of pride in being a part of the journey of other coaches, because I was able to be around a lot of great coaches as well.
Thanks, everybody. We'll have Kwesi up next.
Thanks, guys.
Every rep you take, every play you make. We could make all sorts of fun songs today. I just thought of that when he said, it's every rep you make, is what KOC said. Well, we got some real meat to sink our teeth into there, didn't we, Teneby? He said they are going to go with Darnold's done. They're going to go with McCarthy. They're going to get rid of all 3 interior linemen. They're going to go out and try to get 4 high-profile free agent running backs, the very best in the business, and they're going to completely rebuild the secondary. He didn't say any of that. That's okay, too. I always enjoy hearing from the head coach. By the way, the NFL Coach of the Year, also the soon-to-be big game head coach of the big game world champion, Minnesota Vikings. We'll have all of our reaction to all of the press conference action as the day rolls on. Other side of the break, though, it'll be time for 5-3-4. What you got, Teneby? Got you.
Yeah, the Minnesota Wild can't catch a break.